If you could create an entry fragger from the ground up, it would be Reyna. You have the ability to displace opponents with your Leer. After you kill an enemy, you can choose to heal the damage that you took in that fight, or you can choose to become invincible and avoid getting traded by another person on the other team. And as if that wasn't enough, when you use your ultimate, you get an increased fire rate with your gun. You automatically get healed when you kill an opponent, and at the same time you can also become invincible after every kill. You can switch between your guns faster, and also every opponent is highlighted red, so you can clearly see them in any environment. So in this guide I'm going to talk about Reyna's playstyle and optimal use of her abilities. So let's get started. Alright guys, let's start by talking about Reyna's Leer ability right here. You equip it with C and you let it go with left click. And in this example, let's assume the target right here, this is the area of threat. The number one mistake I see people making is that they use this like a Phoenix flash or a breach flash. They let it go, they wait for it to detonate, and then they peek. That's not what you want to do with this. You want to use it like a raised boom bot. What do you do with the raised boom bot? You let it go and you peek right away. That's what this is for, and the reason why I say that is because most good players will shoot it. And it's important to remember, not only can you shoot it once it detonates, you can actually shoot it before it detonates. That's what most good players will do. They will just shoot it before it even detonates, which means your ability just is rendered useless. So with that said, when you're using this ability, you essentially want to give your opponent two choices. They either have to shoot the Leer, stay exposed, and that gives you a chance to peek and headshot them, or they have to go behind cover. And the way you give them those two choices is peek with the eye, right? Now another mistake I see people making with this eye ability is they go all the way close to the wall and they detonate it. Now one of the things you have to understand is that, like I said before, this thing can be shot in its path before it detonates. So that means you want the least amount of path visible to the enemy because that gives them the least amount of reaction time to shoot this thing. So instead of doing this, what you're doing is something like this. You see that? You see the biggest difference there? Instead of doing this and having all of this pathway revealed to my opponent and giving them all this reaction time, what I did is I made it so that most of the pathway is through the wall. So they don't see it coming until the very last second. Which means they have two choices. They can either shoot it, then I can click their head very easily, or they can just go behind cover. That's it. There's no in between. Always make sure that your pathway is within these walls. Another example, let's just say you've cleared this area and now you're going to try to peek this whole area and you want to flash this area. Most people I know are probably just going to do this. Not very effective because a lot of that pathway is revealed. So instead what you're going to do, you're going to angle it like this. Always aim up if you're in doubt because that way it's going to be revealed to most people. Also, you can see where that thing is going to end up on the minimap, and always make sure that that circle is right outside a wall. That means that most of the pathway is within the walls of the map, and it's going to give the opponent very little reaction time. So right here, check this out. You peek with the Leer, less reaction time, everyone's exposed to it. What more can you really ask for, right? That number one, you're peeking with the Leer. Number two, most of the pathway of the Leer is within the walls of the map. Number three, you're giving your opponent two choices. Either peek, shoot the Leer, and you shoot head, or they go behind cover, which means you've displaced them and you've given your team space to move in as an entry fragger. Number four, you're using this Leer in a way that is going to mess up the crosshair placement of other players. Now let's talk about Devour and Dismiss, which is the Q and E ability. So what this ability does is once you get a kill, they're going to drop an orb. At that point, you have a short moment to decide whether you want to heal from that orb or if you want to become invincible and not take any damage for a short amount of time, while also having a little more movement speed. So the great thing about the Devour ability is that you always have an option to get to maximum health and be overhealed at the same time after you get a kill. And now that comes at a drawback because for you to be able to heal, you have to be in the line of sight of the orb that your opponent dropped. If you're not in the line of sight, then the heal will stop. And because you have to be in the line of sight, this opens you up to getting traded by another player on the other team, right? Because as you're healing, that other player can easily look because they know where your location is and peek and try to kill you. So this is where you have to choose between Q and E, and the E ability is the Dismiss ability. And what that does is that it turns you invincible for a small amount of time where your movement speed is increased and you take no damage. And you can see how that is incredibly OP if you're trying to prevent getting traded, because as soon as you kill one person, you press E And now you can't take any damage, so even if someone else peeks, they can't do anything to kill you, and you can use that time to go behind cover and reload and stuff like that. So then the question becomes, when do you use Devour and when do you use Dismiss? The key question to ask after you get your kill: what are the chances that I am going to get traded in this situation? So if you're on offense and you're peeking this spot right over here, you peek, you take some damage and you get a kill. You can actually get away with pressing Q and healing from this orb, simply because the chances of another person on defense peeking this area are very, very low. So you'll probably be able to get away with healing without getting third party, especially if, again, this is at the beginning of a round. Now let's reverse the role. Let's say you're the Reyna on the other side and you're peeking this area right over here, and it's defense and the round just started. And you do this, you peek, you get a kill, but you take some damage. The opponent drops an orb. This is where you don't want to heal, because if you're on defense and the round's starting, if you kill one person here, there's a good chance that there's another player behind him over here, or there's another player over here that's ready to peek you and get that trade off. So that's where you want to press E. You press E on this orb once the orb is dropped. Now you're invincible. So you can actually choose to just hang around here, see if there's other players there, see who peeks, because you're not going to take any damage. And then when your invincibility is about to run out, you go behind cover, maybe you rotate back to the boxes. And I can just give you a general rule of thumb: in a 5v5, if you're on defense and you get a pick, you're most likely going to want to press E, because there's a very good chance that there's another person behind that guy that is going to go for the trade. If you're on attack and it's a 5v5 and you're peeking a very common angle that only has usually one person, like this one over here, you can maybe get away with Devour, because there's a very low chance that there's another person in this exact spot playing on defense and there's already only going to be 3 people on A. Very rare that 2 people are watching this spot at the same time. Whenever you're in doubt, press E. Even if you're down to 10 health, if you're in doubt, press E, because the last thing you want to do is get a pick and get traded. Especially when Dismiss is probably the most powerful ability that Reyna has, simply because it's useful in so many different situations, whether it's a 5v5 or a 1v5. You can use it to peek critical areas of threat without taking any damage, and you can get important intel in terms of where the enemy's locations are. If you're in mid-fight, you can use it to quickly rotate and change your position, because while you're in Dismiss, you get more movement speed. So this means mid-fight you can change your position and automatically give yourself an advantage against the enemy. And remember, Dismiss counters a lot of other agents' abilities. For example, you can easily go through a Cypher Trapwire with Dismiss. The Raze Boombot will do no damage to you. So if you're in a position where you're going up against a Raze and she puts her Boombot down and decides to peek with the Boombot, you can actually prioritize the Raze instead of the Boombot, because as soon as you kill the Raze, you just press E. And then once you press E, that Boombot is going to target you and explode, but it will do no damage. You can use Dismiss to avoid taking any damage from the spike exploding near the end of the round. Another important thing that's worth mentioning is that you don't have to have your crosshair on the orb before you press Q or E. As long as the orb is in your line of sight, you will be able to Devour or Dismiss. And finally, when you're in a pistol round, always try to use Devour, because that's going to give you that overheal. And let's just say you kill someone with 100 health. If you Devour them, that's going to give you 50 extra health, which means you essentially have full armor in that first round, which is extremely useful in pistol rounds especially. So always try to use Devour at least once, and then you can start using Dismiss as the fights go on. But using Devour in pistol rounds can be instrumental in you winning it. Alright guys, now let's talk about Reyna's ult, Empress. Press X, and it's going to do a couple things. So you get that Empress meter at the bottom right. Make sure you keep track of that, because that's the amount of time that you're going to have in this mode. So what this ability does is that after you get a kill, you will always automatically get healed. That Q ability becomes automatic. So now, anytime you kill someone, there's only one option. You can only press E, and you're going to get the invincibility that you got before. And also another thing is that every enemy target is going to appear completely red. They're just going to have a red highlight on them, so they're going to be very easy to see. And another thing to keep in mind, that it pretty much doubles your fire rate with any gun. It's like maybe you pick a different gun if you're using your ult, because this is the Ares, which is cheaper, and look at the fire rate. The Odin. You know, you have every tool in this game to just wreak havoc and snowball a bunch of kills. That Reyna can do that very easily, especially when you're using your already overpowered abilities the correct way. Make sure that most of your Leer's pathway is within the walls of the map. Make sure that you're picking correctly between Devour and Dismiss after you get a kill. Otherwise, it can end up in you getting traded. And then finally, make sure you're playing with your team to give yourself the best chance to win. Alright guys, thanks for watching this Reyna guide. I hope you learned something that you didn't know before and you go into your games as a better player. If I forgot to cover an important tip that you think I should know, let me know in the comment section down below. Remember guys, I stream on Twitch at SpicyCurry0. Make sure you go give it a follow and hit that bell over there so you know when I'm live. Make sure you join the Discord server, it's always popping in there. If this video helped you, hit that like button. If you like my content and you want to know when I release my next video, make sure you hit that sub button and the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.